Hours before the supposed launch of Shenzhou 7, China published conversations between the astronaut and crew as if it had already happened, and included detailed descriptions of the event. This slip-up revealed from the very start that this spacewalk was a carefully orchestrated fake. This isn't the first time China has faked a space voyage. When China claimed that Chang'e 1 reached the moon, they produced photos that were discovered to have been copied from Google Moon, photoshopped to change the shadows and add craters, and sharpened. The different camera shots of Chang'e 7 launch show some discrepancies. The close-up shot, which distinguishes this vessel as Shenzhou 7, have two markings that later disappeared. Now look at this government report with an image from farther away. Look for those two markings. The top one has all but disappeared, and the bottom one completely changed. Here's a side-by-side comparison. In the video, we see the shots change from a model to an actual launch. The launch we see is actually of Shenzhou 1. The markings are consistent. Look at this side-by-side comparison of the only Shenzhou 1 launch video available and the Shenzhou 7 launch. China's government published supposed satellite photos of Shenzhou 7 in orbit. Take a look at this photo with Earth's arc behind the orbital module. It's much straighter than Earth's arc is in the spacewalk video from the craft. If we overlap the two, we see the satellite photo's arc is straighter. The arc in the spacewalk photo is apparently closer to Earth than the satellite photo, but it's similar to NASA's most recent spacewalk. If we were to zoom in on the satellite photo to the craft's perspective, Earth's arc would be even straighter. In flight, we see white flying objects floating upwards. The same flying objects show up throughout the 15-minute spacewalk. They all occur at diagonal angles, avoiding the Earth, and at different speeds. China says this is debris escaping from the hatch, but why would debris still be flying out 10 minutes after the hatch was opened? It takes less than a second for all the pressure to escape. And why are they at different speeds? This entire scene was actually filmed underwater in a tank, and these are air pockets escaping. Don't think this is far-fetched. China published footage of the Shenzhou crew practicing in a tank. Video cameras can take away the blue to make it look like open space. Then they just speed up the footage so it looks like there is no resistance from the water. Look at the Earth's clouds. They're moving quickly here, and they suddenly speed up here. Watch again. The entire Earth becomes covered in clouds in only 2 seconds, and a slow bubble gets away from the helmet. It rolls around the helmet, speeds up, and expands as buoyant bubbles do. And then look, the same bubble can be seen in the top left, flying downwards. It even changes directions. So why do the bubbles move different directions? Well, massive wave blowers are used in practice exercises to push water up to keep the astronauts from sinking. Water flows on either side of the craft, causing turbulence at the top, pushing the bubbles in different directions. Return vents around the Earth projection suck the bubbles generally sideways. The astronauts' air is provided in these power cords. That's why they float. The astronaut even has to hold it down so that it doesn't float up. The flag also flaps independently of the hand movement. It floats when inertia should throw it the other direction. Here's that slow bubble again, where the clouds suddenly slow to a practical halt. But just seconds ago they moved rapidly. And here's another quicker bubble with quicker clouds. The speed of the clouds and bubbles correlate, revealing that the footage changed speeds. From orbit, Earth has a blue halo around its arc. NASA scientist Ku Zhang explains this is Earth's atmosphere scattering light less intensely than it is at Earth's surface, and that changes the spectrum to blue. But this halo is gone in the flight video. The washed out violet color of Earth is because the underwater camera reduces the blue. There is no way that space, the color and halo are missing. The camera is still in relation to the Earth for the full 15 minutes. It doesn't move. This means they could have positioned the craft not to spin at all. That's difficult. But the camera does move a tiny bit. moves up and down intermittently. This means the craft changes the direction of its spin a tiny bit. Now how does that happen in space? To further understand, let's look at a model. Earth's arc is constantly in the camera with the clouds moving down, so that means the craft is staying still to the sun as the Earth spins counterclockwise. But Deputy Commander Qing Wenbo claimed in Chinese government media reports that the craft's orbit was fast enough to circle the Earth in 90 minutes. That's much faster than the 24 hours per orbit that would keep the craft in the sun. Minus the speed of the Earth spinning the other direction, that's 89.6 minutes per orbit clockwise, which means there should be a roughly 120-degree sun angle change in the 15 minutes from the craft's perspective. We would expect the sun to enter the camera's view, but both cameras show no apparent change in the sun angle. You can see the solar panels rotate from flat to angled away from the camera to catch the sun, indicating that the camera side of the craft turns toward the sun. But let's take a closer look. At 2 minutes, the sun is perpendicular to the craft, there's shadows. At 6 minutes, the sun starts shining on the side of the craft as we would expect, but then at 9 minutes, the sunlight is no longer there, there's shadow again. That is impossible, especially at 90 minutes per orbit. News media discovered a fourth voice spoken throughout the video, speaking non-standard Mandarin. But the craft only had 3 astronauts. 2 stayed inside and 1 exited. Who's the fourth voice? Listen carefully.
转向我，来，抓住变速掌，哎呀，自动往回弹呢。你俯下身交叉下，栋梁你再往边看，你再试一试。栋梁对固定动腰脚步。你打上位置，完整找位置。好了，哎呦，这哪里了？大步，让视频卡呀。
Why is the video and audio footage so clear? Look at the recent USA and Russian spacewalks.
Leon and I have declared.
Again. Yes, and proceed this way.
Now look and listen to China's. Research Director Yu Shuyun for China said noise levels in the module were about 70 decibels while in orbit. China said astronauts needed special earplugs for the loud noises. But there is no background noise. Videos of previous Shenzhou missions had loud background noises though. As the astronaut exited the hatch, you can hear the mission commander say that he entered into water. So let's review. Number 1, China published conversations of the crew even before liftoff. 2, China has a history of faking space launches. 3, different writing on the rocket and different video shots reveal a model was used. 4, China's satellite photos show a craft closer to Earth than their video from the craft. 5, bubbles are seen that couldn't possibly be debris because they speed up and change directions of flight. 6, the hose and flag float. 7, the clouds move quickly at spots, slowly at other spots, according to how fast the bubbles are moving. 8, the color is weird and the blue halo is missing from the Earth. 9, the camera moves up and down a little, indicating the craft changes the direction of its spin. 10, the sun doesn't shine on the craft's side, then does, then doesn't. 11, 4 voices are heard when only 3 astronauts were there. 12, there's no background noise. 13, the commander said the astronauts entered into water.